this is Kara Mayer Robinson. This is Really Famous, where I invite super talented, dynamic people to sit down and have a real conversation with me so I can get a feel for who they really are and what they really think about things. Sometimes it's like two old friends getting together over coffee. Other times it's like listening into a therapy session. My guest today is Peter Scolari. Peter Scolari is an actor who has been acting for decades, and he just won his first Emmy last year for his role in the HBO series Girls. He played Hannah's dad, Tad Horvath. When I think of Peter Scolari, I also think of the show Bosom Buddies, the 1980s sitcom where he starred with Tom Hanks. That was the beginning of Peter's career, and it was also the beginning of a long and special friendship with Tom Hanks. So Peter is in a new film. It's called Wait, and the filmmaker Rob Margolies popped over to the studio as well. And then Peter and I sit down for a conversation that touches on quite a lot. His friendship with Tom Hanks and his friendship with Bob Newhart. And then we get into some really serious topics, including Peter's history with drugs and alcohol. And he opens up about his mental health and gets very analytical. And then later we turn back to his career. We talk about Girls, and he reflects on his career ups and downs. A big shout out and thank you to the Renaissance New York Midtown Hotel, where we recorded this episode. Peter and Rob both came up to the VIP suite called the Empire Suite on the 37th floor. We took some pictures out on the gorgeous balcony. Peter wasn't exactly crazy about that because heights aren't exactly his favorite thing. His son Keaton came along. He's 18 and likely going to be a professional actor himself. So here we are starting with Peter and Rob. All right, great. So, Peter, you're in a new movie. It's coming out soon?
That's what Rob tells us. Yes, Rob Margolies.
Rob Margolies, who happens to be here.
Coincidence? I think not.
Rob, welcome to Really Famous Podcast.
Thank you.
You are the writer, producer, and director?
All three, yeah.
So that's big.
Yeah, for sure. It's my third attempt at being a triple hat wearer.
Very cool. So this movie is called Wait.
Yes.
And it is a comedy about a heavy subject, is the tagline.
Yep.
And it's kind of a true story based on your life, Rob?
It's based on my life, but what I tell people is it's my life if you put it into a snow globe and then shook it all up. I used to be about 70 pounds heavier than I am right now, and over the process of losing weight is sort of what inspired me to write this script.
And that was over a short period of time, right? I think I read something like 7 months or something?
Yeah, about 70 pounds in 7 months, yeah.
How do you even do that?
Just going from eating like a big cupcake or sweet every day to veggies and working out every single day. Yeah, I just made the decision. I have 2 small children, and I was at Runyon Canyon in LA with them, and they were running, my older son was running up the hill, and I couldn't keep up with him, so I realized, I need to lose weight if I'm going to be playing with this kid as he grows up.
A couple questions about things that I heard about the movie. One is that it is like a modern John Candy film, if John Candy were to have lost weight. So what do you mean?
The tone is it's lighthearted. It has an element of drama to it. It's got the classic love interest, which all John Candy films have. And the lead is he's a very likable, jolly individual, which I think a lot of people relate John Candy to here for sure.
Okay. So were you involved in the casting at all? Were you involved in getting Peter over here?
Yeah, I was completely involved in all the casting. And I've been a huge fan of Girls. Peter just came off of his Emmy win, and I was like, he'd be great. He's fantastic. In my opinion, he steals the show, the scenes that he's in Girls, and I would love to work with the guy.
So then what happens? Then people have to talk?
Judy basically calls up his agent, says the director really wants Peter to be involved in the film, make him an offer, and you cross your fingers and hope he reads it and likes it.
Do you read everything that comes your way?
Not everything, no.
So
not everything.
She told you, read this one?
My agents spoke highly of Rob, and I read the film and I liked it.
So they kind of screen it for you first. They'll screen it.
Typically.
And then if they say, take a look, and then you will read the whole thing, or
yes.
what? Okay.
No, I pride myself on that. I read a lot of stuff that I ultimately never connect with. Yeah, I'll never go to work on it for any number of reasons. So there's much more that I read that I never get involved with than and sometimes something comes in and we're actors. The offer is too good. I'm not gonna I won't speak of a television episodic. I'll talk about Chopped. I did Celebrity Chopped a couple of years ago. I said, I'm not going on a cooking show. This is ridiculous. It's beneath me. And my manager said, well, it pays X amount of dollars. And I said, where's the frying pan?
Totally. Has there ever been anything that you didn't feel and then you saw it being made and you were like, oh, that's better than I didn't connect with it when I read it, but that turned out pretty good? Not so much. I mean, I'm not trying to suggest for a moment that I'm really canny and smart about things, but some of the people that represent me typically are. There's not much out there that I've missed. And I said, oh, wow, I should have done that. There wasn't one, even not a script, but even let's say an audition or something like that going way back, something that was offered to you, you said no, and then you looked back and said, oh, I should have? No. I know that sounds crazy, but... Doesn't sound crazy. No, I haven't missed too much. Okay. I mean, I'm also desperate to work most of the time, so that sort of skews the statistic, doesn't it? It's not like I turn my nose up and say, well, I'm busy. I never can work enough. I'm one of those actors. I kind of become unstitched if I'm not working as much as I can. So, what's the time period that you start to feel it's very fast. This is too long? I can't. 8 weeks, and I start to have a meltdown. Yeah. What do you do? What goes on? Walk me through it. Well, it depends. Sometimes the cliches sort of come to life, and you're doing the preposterous call to the agent. Hey, what's going on? Come on! You think you're lighting a fire under these people who generally are working very hard. In fact, it's very much in their interest that you work as much as you think you should be working. So they're doing it. I'm now a character actor. I guess the last decade, I gained that sort of that foothold of being thought of as a character guy. I'm not a leading man actor. No one comes to me to play a lead in a TV show or film or anything else, but to do something interesting and to be a character actor. When I was young, that was the aspiration that we all had. I don't want to be a star. I want to be a character actor. I've succeeded. Is that right? So that's what everybody, all your peers at the time? When I was a young theater actor off Broadway here in New York, that was it. You're a character actor or you're nothing. Don't tell me you're some pretty leading man thing, some romantic. Ugh, that was beneath us. And I never really, when I was young, I never really, maybe in a few iterations, I was some sort of leading man, but yeah. not really. So when it's been 8 weeks, let's say, mm-hmm. Do you ever, or have you ever reached a point where you feel like you start to panic that you're not going to get the next role, mm-hmm. Another role? Oh, absolutely. So what does that feel like? It's terrible. It's terrible. Also to be, I am blessed and cursed with, the ability to sort of vet my thinking, look at my motives and what's sponsoring this negative forecast, and see how ridiculous I am in thinking that I'll never work again, that it's all over, they finally found me out, I'm done. You're through in this town. But you can talk yourself down from that? I can. You can be the one. Yeah, it doesn't take somebody else to shake you, kind of say, Peter, come on. I think a couple of years ago I said to my manager at the time, I said, I've always made the claim that I'm not an actor who needs his hand held or needs to be talked off the ledge, as you say, or given a pep talk, and I would just, now officially like to rescind all of that and say, please talk me off the ledge. Please hold my hand. And I do need a pep talk. That can go too far. I have a new management group that I work with now, and I love them. I think they're great. It's a new romance in my representation, but my agents I've been with for quite some time, and I think they're hard workers. But you don't want to leave an actor alone with his own thoughts or her own thoughts
for too long. So but what's been lovely in my life in the last 5 to 7 years is I've realized that there are many more important things to pay attention to, not the least of which, connect to being, better husband, better father. Those things. It's easy. We're just preposterous people, and we can miss that. I have older children who are nearly 30, the both of them, and I dedicate myself to trying to have a relationship with them that is more meaningful than we have known in the past.
And that's recent that you're dedicating
last
yourself.
decade or so. Yeah.
And has that changed the way that you kind of cope with these dips?
It has, and surprisingly, it's made me a better actor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Who knew? If I'd known, if you could tell an actor early on, live your life, look at the things that really matter, be a more connected person, be selfless, get over yourself. If somebody could have told me 20 and 30 years ago to get over myself, and that I would have been a better actor, I would have made the deal right away. I would have said, okay, look at me, I'm getting over myself, but I didn't.
So are you saying you have now gotten over yourself?
I'm working on it.
You're working on it.
Yeah, let's not get carried away.
Fair enough. But when does this come out?
The movie?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
When does the film come out?
We're hoping to get into a certain film festival that takes place in this city in April. But yeah, fingers crossed that we get our premiere.
Which film festival are you eyeing?
I hate saying it out loud.
Oh, okay. Do you want to? Should we knock on wood or just not say it?
Maybe saying it out loud, someone on the board will hear it and they'll be like, "Oh, I gotta look out for this movie." So Tribeca, of course.
Tribeca Film Festival.
Yeah.
You want this to? You want to get this into?
I had heard it was going to be the Canal Street Film Festival, but Tribeca sounds much better.
Sure, that'll do too.
Yeah.
Maybe both. Do you have any connections there at Tribeca?
I probably do. I mean, the only movies I ever do end up at the Tribeca Film Festival. They don't, I worked much more in television and in theater a lot in the last few years. So, I end up in movies that either go straight, don't worry about this, right? That either go straight to DVD or they have a limited release and then they do well.
Yeah. But some of them do. They don't have to take that route anymore.
Yeah, and let's not kid ourselves. Movies that get big national, openings and have a lot of distribution money behind them are not things that we necessarily are going to hold in the highest esteem. A lot of what's out there is junk, and the indie stuff and stuff that's made on more on a shoestring, tends to be where we can find stuff that's oh my God, that was so much fun.
Yeah, cool movie, and then people talk about it too, which is always nice.
Yeah.
Another thing that I read about it was this is Randy Quaid's first film since 2009. Is that true?
That's very true.
How did you get him to do this?
He threatened him. Which was incredibly bold because Randy's a huge guy.
Yeah, he's like a foot taller than me, actually. Exactly a foot taller than me. But
did you measure?
No, I just IMDb statistics.
He studied just in case. You're let me see exactly how tall this guy is.
Exactly. But no, I've always been a huge fan of Randy, and I needed a big, sort of powerful presence who's got a great comedic appeal as well. And you're going through the list, and I figured Randy hasn't worked in a while, and if he wants to do this project, I feel like it could create some kind of stir. Not to mention I'd be working with someone who I greatly respect on screen, and I was just honored that he did it. I mean, it was a back and forth in terms of negotiating deal points, but in the long run we ended up getting him, and he gives a wonderful performance, as does Peter, of course. And
who's your favorite though?
No,
well, here's what you do. When I'm sitting next to you, it's me. And then later, when it's Randy at another venue, then it's Randy. It's simple. I'm just helping him with it.
See? You have a personal coach right here. Good job, right answer. That's awesome. So one question, I guess, specifically that made me think of for you. How is it to work with actors?
I love it. I would consider myself
he's answering the right answer right now.
Like an actor.
But he's still
director.
young. I'm just kidding.
I love it. I feel like the movie's told people say 3 different ways, but I would say 4 different ways. When you write it, when you obviously when you're on set directing it, but I think directing is really how the actors interpret it, and then it's told through the editing process. So those are the 4 ways, in my opinion, that the movie's sort of told. And casting is so crucial. I mean, if you cast the wrong people in the movie, it's not going to do well. And casting the right actors can bring a certain amount of extra life to the script that a writer or director wouldn't even dream possible. And Peter and Randy and Kathleen and Jimmy and Ashley Johnson, and they certainly brought that out.
So what is it like then? You're watching Peter on Girls for like a bunch of seasons in a row, and then you're the one directing him. Is that a little intimidating?
My first movie was a little intimidating for sure, but I've been through it over the last decade now. So for me, it's more like it's like a treat. It's like I don't get to do it every single day for directing, So it's being on set for 17 days of 1 year, then having to wait another year or 2 for your next movie. It's like a kid going to like a carnival. It's like it doesn't last every single day. It's like the carnival's only in town for a certain amount of time, so I make the most of it, and I get myself my cotton candy, and I go on the biggest roller coaster there is, and I ride the ride,
That's awesome. Rob, congratulations and good luck. I'm going to be pulling for you with Tribeca Film Festival.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming by, and I'll be watching out for you.
Thank you so much.
What a lovely kid, right?
Totally. I feel like I've seen him, or I feel like I know him or something. Do you get that feeling? I mean, you do because you do.
He's got an energy about him.
Yeah.
Even when my agent spoke to me about him, they were saying that everybody has a good feeling about this guy. Isn't that interesting? And you don't hear that much.
You don't.
I could have said that on the podcast, but I forgot.
You can still say that.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was good working for him too?
Oh, I had a blast. We're also the lead actor who plays, the kid with the weight problem. We broke up. I mean, they asked me to improvise, and I said, "All right, we're doing this then." And I broke the kid up pretty bad a couple of times, but he broke me. So because we would ad lib and build on Rob's writing, and Rob shepherded us through that. That's how they work at HBO. That's how we worked at Girls. We would film a scene, and then Lena this was pretty early on, Lena would come over to me and said, we've got the scene is written. I was thinking, what if I said this to you, X instead of Y? What would that work for you?
I know about that because I went to the set of Girls. I was on the set of Girls once doing a story for the Wall Street Journal. About filming in the city, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I'm watching a couple of scenes or whatever, and they're doing the same scene over and over, and it was that kind of thing. Jason Ritter, I think, was there, and I was talking to him about it, and he was saying how much he loved the fact that they would say, do it as we scripted it, now do it however you want. And they were funny, some of the...
Oh, sure.
Well,
I think the giant in that regard, and a lot of us have done it, and I take great, pride in what I was able to achieve as a loose improvisational actor. But the real giant was Andrew Reynolds. Andrew would create a stream of character improvisation that would lead to the story going into places that it was never intended to go.
Oh, that's interesting. And you would be in a lot of scenes with him too.
Eventually I was, but not in his first season.
Oh, I didn't
think
know
he started as a guest star and then became a regular character.
So it was his...
And I think he's the only one who graduated in that way, or matriculated, And he's a wonderful, wonderful man, and a great talent, great musical theater talent. I went and saw him, my wife Tracy and I saw him do Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Yes.
Yeah. And what a singer, what a stage actor, incredible.
He had he was in a show. It was short-lived. It was a sitcom. It was with another guy too, and I forget his name. It was right. I feel like it was right at the beginning of Girls too.
I think you're right. I think it was on ABC or something.
Yeah, something like that. I think it was a network, and it was like a cute show. Like I felt like it had some potential. I was surprised it got canceled.
Yeah.
So after Rob left, Peter and I sat down and got cozy on the couch. Keaton was there too, and here we are talking about how to pronounce his name.
Scolari.
Can I say it with a little Italian?
Scolari is Italiano.
So what's the story of the last name?
My father dodged his Italian-American sort of history, genealogy after World War II, coming back from World War II, having been in the Navy. You know, Italy was part of the Axis power, so nobody wanted to be Italian-American. So, but growing up in Scarsdale, New York, my brothers and sister and I became the Scolaris.
Scolari.
Nobody bothered with, this.
But why Scolari? Who would say that? I feel like that's not. I don't think I would think of Scolari.
Somewhere, when I sort of eased into a pronunciation that I felt neither leaned too heavily on the Italian-American nor on the, sort of neighborhood quick pronunciation of Scolari or Scolari. It was Scolari. Scolari is how most of my relatives, my cousins, first cousins and aunts and uncles all pronounced it that way. So I adopted that. Scolari it is. I think my brother Art, just slightly younger than I think he's a Scolari. My son, who's sitting here with us, Keaton, says Scolari, don't you?
Hi, Keaton.
Hello.
So you want to say your name for everybody?
Keaton Scolari.
Oh, okay.
Sounds good when he says it.
It does sound good.
Doesn't it? Sounds a little strange when to my ear. It sounds a little strange.
You're just too used to saying it your way.
Yeah.
But when you hear people saying your name, they're not usually saying it the way that you say it.
No, again, off pod. I'm coining a phrase that I think is going to catch.
I like off pod.
Catch like wildfire. We talked about Tom Hanks saying nice things about me, as he is wont to do sometimes. On, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes, it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Last year, where he called me Scolari.
Yes, he did. Scolari.
Yeah.
That threw me for a loop when I saw that. I said, "Oh, it's Scolari."
You could, if you play 6 Degrees of Separation with me, you can connect to almost anyone in the 20th century with 2 or 3 moves, because I've worked not just with Tom Hanks, who's worked with everyone, but I worked with George C. Scott on a TV movie in the 1980s. Which connects me to Peter Sellers in one move.
To a whole other group of people.
For Dr. Strangelove. Okay. I worked with Jose Ferrer on, and Leslie Caron, in television in the 1980s. So you can get anywhere so fast.
So you're more than Kevin Bacon. It really should be a game about you.
I'd give him a run, in terms of connectivity.
So who is one that you're connected to, but not directly, so not 1 degree? Mm-hmm. Or I guess there's one. What if there's you, then someone you acted with, and then somebody else, then there's 1 degree of separation, I guess? Mm-hmm. Or is that's the 2nd degree?
I think that's 2. I think 1 degree is 1 move, yeah.
But then isn't it 1 degree of separation?
But it's 6 degrees of separation.
Okay.
Is how the game
so then
is.
you go 6 steps.
You can get anywhere in 2 or 3 moves.
Anywhere in 2 or 3.
Just
so who's 2 or 3 that really excites you? That you think is pretty cool?
Great! What a great question. Humphrey Bogart in 2 moves. Jose Ferrer playing the prosecuting naval attorney in The Caine Mutiny, and there's Bogart on the stand being cross-examined by Jose, with the marbles in his hand in the brilliant last scene of the movie.
So there's really a lot of these guys who you're.
And Jose Ferrer played my father-in-law on the Newhart show in the 1980s and 90s, and befriended me.
Much to your surprise?
I'm still shocked. He's long gone. I'm still shocked.
He just saw something in you that he liked?
He did. He really did.
Did you feel the same back?
Well, it took me took me a while to accept his graciousness, and because I remember when Ferrer was first on the show on Newhart, and I was rehearsing with him. I just couldn't concentrate. He was speaking with that incredible baritone, and then I took my friend Tom Poston, may he also rest in peace, who was a regular George Utley, the handyman on the Newhart show, and I took him aside and I said, I can't act with this guy. I can't concentrate. He speaks and I'm just, stunned. And he said, well, tell him. So I went up to Ferrer and I said, Mr. Ferrer. And he said, call me Joe. And I said, well, no, I can't. I don't think I'm ready for that. And I said, I'm having trouble acting with you. And he said, really? Why? And I said, because when you speak, every time, he could be saying pass the broccoli, and it's pass the broccoli. It's this incredible thing. I said, when you speak, I'm back in the Caine Mutiny. I'm back in Cyrano. I'm back in with you playing Toulouse-Lautrec. And he said, oh, can I curse on a podcast?
Please, be my guest.
All right. Oh, fuck that. And call me Joe. And I called him Joe. In the years, that followed, he got my phone number once from Tom Poston to call me and congratulate me on something he had seen me do. I was on the Today Show in the late 1980s, and I came off, the set with Bryant Gumbel, and somebody came up, some stage manager came up and said, there's a man on the phone for you in the makeup room. He says he's Jose Ferrer. And I said, oh, it is. I know, it's crazy,
it's true.
But it really is him. And he was at the Players Club or somewhere. I said, come join me for breakfast. I enjoyed you with Bryant today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Bob Newhart, what about him? Did you have a special relationship? I thought I read that you did, but I may have been mistaken.
I have never spoken about it.
You've never spoken about that? Where
really.
would I have gotten that from?
No, I mean, not in any detail.
Okay.
Just that he likes, we like each other and we have a nice association. But we really ran sort of there was a concurrent development of affection. I am at a loss often to imagine what anyone sees in me, but I can tell you what I saw in him, which was, a guy who was really complicated and did not suffer fools gladly. He was always a gracious man, but he would confide in me. I must have played 30 rounds of golf with him in my time there, my 7 years at the Newhart show, because Tom Poston got me into that godforsaken game of golf, and Bob picked it up and started taking me out to play with him on Mondays after we would read a script and go home. You want to come out to Bel Air Country Club? Oh, okay. And later he sponsored me as a junior member at Bel Air Country Club. I don't play golf anymore. I have no money left. But I have these fond memories. And I saw Bob at the Emmys, not this past Emmys, but a year ago. And I was nominated in his category, guest actor in a comedy series. And we were backstage reuniting. I hadn't seen him in about 5 years. And he said, Pete, you can win this year. I'm okay with that. I already have one. And I knew that he really, in his way, which wasn't exactly cryptic, but was nuanced. You had to get to know Bob over time to know how he really felt about some things. Sometimes, he would be sarcastic and funny and teasing, and you would know how he felt. Other times he would say things that were so, not many people got to penetrate that way.
So you said, it's so weird because you said you don't know what Jose Ferrer would have seen in you, but a lot of people see things in you.
Yes.
So, and Tom Hanks is another one who keeps trying to say something nice about you every time.
You can't shut
every
him
time
up.
There's a microphone around, right? So
care.
There's something special there too.
Yeah, this is not a grievous flaw or deficiency in me, but I am, at my best and at my worst, I am self-obsessed, and in general there are qualities that are attributed to me that I have come, after many years of work on myself, to believe are true. The really nice things that people say about me, they're true.
What are they?
Well, if you have a friend in me, then you've got somebody who has your back, and I will step up for you. But I spent many years as a not well guy, and I carry the sort of scars from that. Trying to, in the Newhart years were examples of that. Bosom Buddies years were examples of that.
What was going on?
Well, I wasn't sober, So you'll hear other people who are in recovery talking about that wreckage of the past. And my older children did not get to have the father that my younger children have. And I'll never be able to cover all that distance, pick up all that slack, and repair all of that. In fact, it would be arrogant, presumptuous to me to think that I could. But you do what you can in the present, and to live in the past is another form of vanity. So I keep an eye on that. In fact, some would say that self-loathing is one of the greatest loves, of all. And
that's interesting. Self-loathing is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give into it. But if you're truly vain, as most actors are, you're struggling with opposite sides of the same coin. You're struggling with a grandiosity and a big ego, and with terribly problematic low self-esteem.
So do you think that's why a lot of actors go into acting, is because of that second part?
I never used to think so. I used to think, oh, that's such a cliche. You're in show business because you had a troubled childhood, and you're trying to get all the gratification and praise and love that you never got in your family. Oh, that's nonsense. Until I reached a certain age, and I came to believe that it was true.
What changed your mind?
Well, getting to know myself.
So back then you didn't realize that you were one of those examples.
A little better. But you talk about Tom Hanks, he's known all, and I know Tom in all of his, sort of incarnations, all in this lifetime. I know them all, and he knows all of mine. I mean, we were very close in the Bosom Buddies era, and I'm not suggesting, for a minute that over the last 35 years or more that we have always been close. But the thing that is true is that when we do connect, and the timer gets out past a minute or two, something extraordinary happens, and we trust each other, and we love each other. Again, we don't go out to dinners and hang out. He comes to town. He can come in and out of town. I'll never know he was here if I'm not paying attention.
But there's something.
But I just recorded a book on tape for something that he's written, an excerpt from this book that that is coming out. The writing is staggeringly.
Yeah, he's an incredible writer too, right? Super talented.
It's ridiculous how gifted he is as a writer. But anyway, we recorded Cecily Strong and Peter Garrity, Holland Taylor, and myself recorded one of the stories as a book on tape.
What was going on then when you started drinking? What was that, like Bosom Buddies years or something? Or were you drinking already when you were like a teenager?
I started a little early. I lost my dad when I was 20, and I went into a very, very, very dark spell of drinking and using pills and other substances. And I was by the time I booked Bosom Buddies, I was a very sick guy. And by the end of the second season, I was in a lot of trouble, and there was nobody in my life to take me aside and say, you're in a lot of trouble. And the addicts will tell you, it's not even something we think about. I mean, you blacked out, you nearly froze to death in your apartment in 80-degree weather, and you're shivering in front of a space heater, and you've got the hot bath running, so you don't run out of breath. Yeah. And then you get through that, and you go to sleep, or you stay up late, or you do whatever you do, and you do it all over again. It's a miserable, deadly disease.
Does it run in your family?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Your father?
No. My dad had other problems, but my mom passed just a few years ago and she would have been celebrating 45 years of continuous sobriety. So there's someone who got sober in my family.
Yeah. So, but then when you were that young, was she drinking when you were growing up? Or?
I was very, in some really difficult times in my life as a child, she was active. Yeah. She got sober when I was 13.
So when there were difficult periods in your life, was that because she was?
It was not a good. It was a really. And again, you don't know, you're a kid, but it was a really, really terrible terrible affair. And my dad was struggling with her terribly and with his own rage. So I had a raging father and an alcoholic mother. And there's just no safe place. And you have these, these passages, these periods of time when you are, you're in heaven because there's nobody yelling and everybody seems to be getting along. But it's a false, sort of model, because that's just a lull.
And you didn't feel like you were just waiting for the other shoe to drop at that point?
You're a kid, so grown-ups will tell you that as a kid, I thought all of that was normal. I thought every kid is terrified, at least 3 or 4 times a week, just scared witless and not able to feel, their voice and their, unable to speak, and, with your skin just radiating a kind of prickly heat, just of shame and guilt and fear. Just think, well, that's the way it is. And my parents divorced when I was 16, so that created a new paradigm, and where everybody split up. My sister and youngest brother lived with my mom. My close brother, close in age, and I lived with my dad. And
why was that, I wonder?
I'm not sure. I mean, I was given a choice.
Okay. You chose your dad.
I did, mostly because I knew I'd get a car in the deal. I'd get his car that he was sort of giving up. I always got along fantastically well with my mom, but never felt, that I had her as a mom. And if she'd lived a little longer, I think we were right on the verge, because of my sobriety, I think we were on the verge of talking about all of that.
So when did you start drinking then?
I was, in earnest, I was 19.
19.
My dad was still alive.
And quickly...
I was in college.
Things progressed?
The alcoholics will tell you that, there comes this moment in time and you're just off to the races. It's not a slow thing. Sometimes it's misunderstood, the idea that, an alcoholic is drinking vast quantities suddenly and uncontrollably. Alcoholism is, I think, more clearly understood as when you look at the effect that one drink has, that it in fact creates this dynamic psychic sort of turnabout. The effect of one drink, which sets up this phenomenon of craving, is alcohol. Is a huge part of how the alcoholic can be diagnosed. We also consider it to be and if you're going to get well, you have to diagnose yourself and admit it.
So
how did we get on all of this? I thought we were talking about my career.
There's more to your career than just your what you're doing on screen.
You know what? Where I've been in my career, it's only been personal. In my most successful times and in the down times, it's always just been a very personal affair.
I'll also tell you that I was a therapist before.
Oh, that's how you do it.
So,
isn't that funny?
I'm interested in the human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're deep, we run deep.
You might be surprised, no, probably not surprised to hear that I see actors who've had more commercial success, by far than anything I've ever known, although I've had a nice career. And sometimes I feel for them. Isn't that wild? I just feel like, gee, I'm not so sure you're connected to anything meaningful. I think you're living this career out as though the career, your movie stardom, your series stardom, whatever it is actually your life. And I've been blessed with an alternative, sort of understanding of things, which is that is distinctly not your life. That is, something that's happening that is commercial and it's business, and you may have some fame or notoriety for it. I have some, but that ain't your life.
And you always felt that way?
No.
When did it shift?
When I was really in the height of, my sickness, you might say, I thought all of that was really important. I didn't get well until I was 48 years old. I'm 62 now.
When you say you weren't well, so this is drinking specifically and using whatever drugs you were using?
Other pieces of the puzzle.
Is there mental illness or mental health issue?
Yes, you know she was going to come around to it. I'm looking at my son as we speak. You knew she'd catch on. She was a therapist. What do I owe you for this? You take insurance?
Why would I take insurance?
Yeah, you can't make any money. Yeah, I was diagnosed bipolar about 15 years ago. That's when I was able to get, I started getting treated.
How did that come about?
Well, I had some very bad events, and at that point in time, I would have really had to have been aggressively in denial, in denial, the likes of which, would be taking me to an end point very quickly. And mercifully, that was not the case. I had some terrible events, and I said, oh my, this can't be right. And I went and I saw a psychiatrist, and he did a 4-hour intake, and he tricked me. He diagnosed me as a bipolar guy, and I felt tremendous relief. I'm going to put me on some medicine and everything else. And he asked me a lot of questions about drinking and using substances. And I said, why, you keep coming back to this. Why? I mean, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And he didn't say anything. And I looked at him and I said, oh, you're a sly one, aren't you? I said, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And he said, do you think you're an alcoholic? And then I knew I'd been had.
You never before that day thought you might be an alcoholic?
No.
For all those years?
Well, let me qualify that. Let me amend that ever so slightly. I didn't care.
Okay, because there had to be certain things that you came up against and then quickly shut down from or ignored, right?
That's what you do. You let something come up that, above the surface just long enough to play whack-a-mole and go, yeah, smash. Knock it down, get it out of here. I don't want to talk about it. It's not important. I'm fine.
Famous last words.
Sometimes. Mm-hmm. Famous last words. All through the years, I thought I'm passionate. I have deep-seated passion. I have rage. I have, that's how I know myself. I'm fierce, and I'm a fighter, and I'm a scrappy, all this sort of romanticized,
your feelings,
defects of character is what was really going on is that I was really a defective, a guy who was really sick. And when he said you're bipolar, suddenly I thought, depression is a flaw in chemistry, not character. I used to be on the side of a building on 72nd Street, and I thought, oh my, boy, I've missed this. I felt like Alec Guinness, looking at the bridge on the River Kwai at the end, realizing that he had missed everything. I mean, I just thought, what have I done? I have children.
How old were your children?
These guys were 3 and a half and 1 and a half, almost 4 and 2. Yeah, and I saw it in them. They'll never know because they were too young. But I saw how sick I was in their eyes one night. That took me out.
So,
like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Were you self-medicating the bipolar disorder, do you think?
Yes, that's what we do. That's how it works.
So when the emotions went up or they went down, you were taking care of it?
The substances are there for when you're feeling manic to come down, when you're feeling depressed to come up, and when you're somewhat, disconnected from everything else in the middle, and you don't feel up or down or anything else, just to have something to do. The abject terror is just being alone with yourself and being as you are. People who get sober really struggle in the early stages and thereafter sometimes, because suddenly there's nothing between them and their feelings anymore.
Right, and they've been burying them or hiding from them for a long time.
We've been medicating something.
So how do you work that out then?
Well, I'm in a program. I work very, very hard.
So you do therapy and medication?
I do. I have therapy. I take medication for my bipolar syndrome, which is not an antidepressant in the best cases. It's actually an anti-seizure, atypical anti-epileptic medication.
So as a mood stabilizer?
it's not quite a mood stabilizer technically. There's another medication I take that's
a mood stabilizer.
More specific to that. And and I work in a 12-step program.
So you're actively managing this.
I'm very active, yeah.
And that's why you are where you are now, feeling, I mean, you can tell your perspective has come a long way.
A long way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're in a good place now?
Yes, never better.
And it's gotten better and better and better since that day in the psychiatrist's office?
It's been rocky. It's been rough. You know, you've got wreckage, stuff that you've left behind, and then you suddenly look back and go, wow, I guess that's my life. What's behind me is what happens when somebody is, asleep at the wheel and living this, unfortunate life. And I had success and making a lot of money and houses and cars and Emmy nominations and all kinds of things.
Some good things have come to you after you started recovery.
Indeed.
And you said that you feel like you became a better actor.
Yes, I know.
After this stuff.
Yes, indeed. When I work with newcomers and we're talking about, a musician or a stand-up comic or an actor, and they say, I'm just afraid if I do this sober thing, I'm going to lose my creative edge. And I go, well, guess again.
Did you worry about that too?
And I say, do I have to trot out the Emmy for you? Do I have to bring it to our next meeting and show it to you?
But did you worry about it when you first?
No.
You didn't worry about that?
No.
You just knew it was time and you needed help?
I was in very, very bad shape. I was like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't care. I have got to find a way to save my life,
Rock bottom.
Yeah.
So, you were married at the time? Were you alone? What was going on?
Yes, I was.
So this is before these kids were born?
No, these kids were...
Because they were little when you...
Yeah, Keaton's 18, my daughter Callie is 16, and I've been sober about 14 and a half years.
Okay, right. So they were little when this turnaround came.
Yeah.
But before that, when nobody was calling you out and you weren't calling yourself out, you had older kids.
Yes.
Who were young at the time?
No, they were teenagers.
Teenagers.
Yeah.
Did they call you out at all?
No.
They never.
I left. I divorced their mom, and pulled a geographic move and left California, and went on the road and with a national tour and then a Broadway show. But I was in a very bad way.
So that was was that the lowest point almost?
Yeah. But again, I was the straightest. I didn't say this before, so it's not actually an again.
It's not.
That's what
an off pod. Again. Okay.
Pundits
what do they
do
say?
that all the time. Again, this is what we understand to be true, and they haven't said anything before in relationship to the thing that they're saying again.
So it's just like it's like an
That's like at the end of the day. We really what day? When did
the bottom line is.
When does that happen? I like at the end of the day. Yeah, the bottom line is, when the rubber meets the road.
Long story short.
But I was really a straight kid, and not because I knew of my mother's alcoholism. I just was an athlete. I was an athlete scholar, and I really prided myself on that. So I drank once or twice, in my senior year in high school. But I wasn't going to be, I wasn't. Didn't think I was heading anywhere with it. I didn't need to drink again when I drank. What happened is I got to college, and somebody that I really admired, a graduate student that I was working with, he got me high one night. You ever smoked weed before, Pete? I said, hell no. It had been all around me. Mind you, I had come up in the hippie generation. I'd been a camp counselor in Maine. I knew, kids from the suburbs of Boston and Western Mass. I mean, drugs and alcohol and marijuana were everywhere, and I was like, no thank you, I get high on life and being fast or athletic, or and the hippies loved me. It's all right, man, he's cool.
You need to play a part like that. That was just hilarious, just so you know.
He's cool. I had hippie friends who would vouch for me.
Yeah.
Because hippies had a cachet in high school and college that superseded the cachet of any athlete. You know, like I could kick anybody's ass within 6 inches of my height and 30 pounds of my weight. I could, but I would have to sort of be. I would have to accept my lower status among hippies because they were cool.
That was the time.
Being a jock in 1971 was like sort of low caste. It's like, seriously? You going to football practice, man? Yeah. And you felt low. You felt like less than. You felt like some weird Republican in 1971. This was also the Watergate, the beginnings of the Watergate scandal in 71.
But you tried it that one time finally.
Well, what happened
and that was like
I was 19 in college.
Where was college?
I went to Occidental College in Eagle Rock, California, which was Obama's alma mater before I think he went on to Columbia and Harvard. So I had tremendous cachet suddenly at Occidental College as a theater major because I was from New York and everybody thought I was the edgiest guy they'd ever seen. And I was like, I even like affected my speech a little bit, and I put on a little, there was just a little bit of, I did a little bit of a New York accent, even though I didn't really have one. Oh, you're so cool. And so I, became a hot shot in the theater department, and then I got high, and that was it. Within a month, I was like, I gotta get more weed. I hooked up with a guy at a party, and we were, we became pals. We drank a gallon of Gallo Burgundy at a party, a gallon, and got so violently sick, and then couldn't wait to do it again. A year later, I was very successful off-Broadway in New York with a really cool theater company that spawned, and involved the careers of Jeff Goldblum and Danny DeVito and my friend Michael O'Keefe, who I see now and then, who was later Oscar nominated for The Great Santini. And I was at the ground level, sort of the base camp of this theater company going through the roof off-Broadway. And again, I was extremely cool kid, doing massive amounts of marijuana and drinking heavily and every single night, and then my dad died, right in the midst of this huge early success. My dad's heart exploded and he was gone. So I entered into a depression that lasted 25 years.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
So what's your life like now? So you live in New York.
Mm-hmm.
You're recently married, somewhat recently?
Well, we've been together almost 13 years.
Okay.
We were recently married.
And your wife's name is
Tracy Shane. Tracy was a long-running Christine in Phantom. She was in one of the early Broadway companies of Chorus Line for 4 or 5 years, and she played Roxy in Chicago. But she was the second Cosette in Les Mis on Broadway, and was in a career transition. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard for me. I need to make more money than I want to make. I could do without that sort of obligation, or so I can't just my career is solid enough that I could work year round in the theater and get out and do the independent film here and there, and television episodic here and there, but I can't. I have to compete for better paying jobs to pay down a lot of debt. So it's very challenging.
What kind of debt is it?
Well, a lot of it connects to what we've been talking about, for a while, just things not getting taken care of properly, IRS debt, and family debt, you might say, and that's very challenging.
So it's like you can't even get ahead of it at all? You can't chip away at it, feels like?
I'm doing
slowly.
Some nice chipping away, but it's very challenging and disturbing. I mean, how do you get to, I had to ask myself 5-6 years ago, how am I going to improve as an actor? It sounds like a grandiose statement, and I'd ask that your audience disqualify that judgment. I don't mean it in a grand way. I thought at 56, I'm about to go do the pilot for this show, Girls. How am I gonna? I don't know how to get more skill. I'm 37 years doing this.
But why did you think you needed more skill at that point?
It was an instinct that I had. I thought, I've got to dig deeper.
Okay, so go to the next level.
Yeah. And what I started to do on the set of Girls right away was to stop acting. Now you cannot stop, an experienced actor from acting. So technically it can't be done. But what I did was I shut down all the autopilot stuff and said, no, stop it, everybody, stop. Stop doing good line readings. Stop, being in character. Stop it. And let's see what happens. I learned my lines, but I just declined to plan a performance because I was too seasoned and too practiced, and I didn't trust myself. I thought, you're just going to do what you're good at. And it led to the best work of my career. And I carried it over. Ultimately, the best work I've ever done, I did a year ago on a miniseries for ABC. I played Bernie Madoff's younger brother to Richard Dreyfuss's Bernie Madoff. He was so brilliant.
You felt like that was the best work that you've done?
It was the best work I've ever done because I just sat inside of it and waited until behavior
came out.
The great ones, and I don't include myself in their company necessarily because I've yet to prove it.
So who are they?
But like you take an Alfred Woodard or a Gary Oldman or a Tom Hanks. I know he's not acting because I'd catch him. You look at Road to Perdition, which I've seen, on cable in the past few weeks. It's run a few times, and I just lean in and look at it, and I go, look at this performance. Not an acted moment in it. Just inhabiting a character truthfully. Just living inside that with this sublime trust.
Do you watch TV?
Yes, sure.
What do you like?
Well, my wife and I are learning how to binge watch.
You're learning how to binge watch?
We just finished the OA, which is a Brit Marling series, and I'm a great admirer of that young lady's work. She did a movie called Another Earth, which just killed me.
Okay.
Killed me. So stunning and painful and beautiful.
So you like to feel when you're watching something?
I like to try not to and see how that works out.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't, I no longer at my age cry at commercials with cute puppies. I've been through that phase in my life.
What makes you cry now?
Or cancer survivor commercials, which are meaningful and important. But now when somebody speaks a truth and I didn't see it coming, I'm like, God damn it, I'm not going to win this battle, so I get choked up. But I'm at a somewhat uptight phase in my life right now. To be
uptight?
Quiet. Yeah, a little bit.
What do you mean?
I don't know, I've experienced such deep emotion in my life, and I'd be worried if I didn't feel that as an undercurrent. But I'm a little prideful, maybe proud, shy. I don't want to give it up to who? My wife, my son, if I see him or his sister do something meaningful, I get choked up, and I don't know. Right now, just now, October 10th, I'm a little. I pull it in. I can master my emotion a little bit and not just become this weeping Italian American dad. But I have been that. When I saw him perform, Keaton played Tulsa in Gypsy at the LaGuardia School of Music and Art and Performing Arts last spring, and I lost it. I was in very bad shape, so much so that I had to kind of pull it together so that I could continue to watch the performance.
Did he make a scene? Did you know about this?
Oh, he couldn't have seen it.
Oh, okay. So it was just you.
He was on stage.
Yeah. So it wasn't it was to yourself.
But it had to do with, what I know. It's, has gone into him dealing with some of his stuff and the work ethic. I know how hard he worked to get there. I don't know why that is. Something about us Scolaris. You talk to my brothers, my sister, you know, you talk to my older sons, Nick and Joe, I don't know why, but in this lifetime we have to work time and a half harder than our peers. We just do. I mean, people might think I've had this, you know, fantastic run of, you know, career success. It hasn't been like that. You know, I'm complimented and plagued by the perception that, you know, like I'm a recent Emmy Award winner, and, you know, I'm known from a TV series in every decade. But I have really struggled. I don't. People think I'm working all the time. I'm not, and it's very challenging, because even now at my age, I have to work hard. I have to keep pushing buttons and showing up and auditioning for things and giving up on work that I'd rather be doing to make sure that I'm pushing the career forward. You know, in fairness, most actors would kill to have my career and my, you know, my cachet. They would, but I'm not done. I'm in a very aggressive state about all of that. I feel like I have a lot left to prove, because unbeknownst to me, 5-6 years ago, I found out working on Girls that I had a lot more growth that's in the offing. Now I have to go stake a claim to it, and I have to, as does my son and my daughter, everyone else in my damn family, we all have to work. My wife has to, who's had an incredible career, has to work hard to keep it and to move it forward.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that, but there is, I think, for so many people, so much more work that goes on behind the scenes to make what you see on the surface.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's hard.
Where do you want to go next?
I want to be back in television. I mean, every, you know, actor friends who admire me and respect me, and, you know, and we are peers and have worked together, some of us, others not. They all think I belong in feature films, and I have had a terrible career in feature films, and that's okay. I really want to be back in television. I want to be in your damn living room. I want to be on your Netflix, on your Hulu, on your Sci-Fi, on your Bravo, you know, on your AMC. I want you to binge watch me next year. And I had a little taste of it in Girls, and I have not. It has not lost its, you know, sort of excitement for me. That's what I want.
Why do you love it?
There was a template that we laid down years ago talking about the difference, and it's changed because now film actors are in your living room. But back in the day, I remember running into John Voight at the airport, and he was uncharacteristically generous with people who approached him, and people approached him. This was about 1982, 84. And we talked about it, and he said something along the lines of, you know, because he said, I've seen you. He wanted to give that to me. And I said, yeah, I'm do this TV series, Bosom Buddies. And he said, you know, I admire you TV actors because you're trustworthy enough that you can be in people's living rooms every week. He says, but us film actors, you know, people think we're larger than life because when they see us, we're 20 feet tall. And I thought in that moment that he has made a decision, a personal decision, to let people into his personal space. And I've come across many film actors over the years since then, no disrespect to them, but you feel the energy coming off of them. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. I'm really not going to be, you're going to make me uncomfortable, and you'll feel uncomfortable in return because I'm not doing this. I'm not having it, or I'm not good at it, or any number of explanations. If you walk the streets of New York with me for 20 blocks, we'd get stopped. And I get stopped when I'm in a career slump and nothing is going on. Oh, I love you on this, I loved you on that in 1982 and 1996 and 2008. What are you doing now? What's next for you? Oh, any goddamn thing I can get my hands on, to be honest with you. And sometimes I even tell people the truth, but not always. Because, you know, that can kind of wrinkle the cardboard a little bit.
Yeah.
You can never get it right back into the same shape. But I want to be back in people's living room. I had Girls for 6 years. HBO shows run, rerun and rerun over and over again. So people think you're on TV like 6 times a month, and sometimes you are. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
I want that. I feel like I've earned it. I almost booked a really fun Broadway show in the spring. A few weeks later, I almost booked a big television pilot. Neither of them went my way. So that's my life now, that I'm in the running for some fantastic things frequently, but I have to score them. I have to compete for them. I have to win them.
And you wish at this point you didn't have to.
I wish.
Yeah, that they would just be handed to you.
But I have to tell you, honestly, I'm also convinced, alternatively, of another, we're in a world of alternative facts and reality, but alternatively, I think what sponsors or funds my growth is this thing we're almost talking about as an adversity, as obstacles. I think I think I've figured some things out at my age, not a moment too soon, about how to, make that work for me. You make something hard for me to get, well, guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be getting better. Mm-hmm. I'm coming after. I've learned it. This year, as much as at any other time in my life, I am a scrapper. If you put your hand up to stop me, I'm going to find a way through. I'm coming after you. I'm not going to quit.
I think that is a quality that not a whole lot of people have. And either you have that or you don't have it, and that's what gets people places.
Yeah, you give that up.
To
Winston
be a scrapper.
Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. The other thing that I share with my kids is, there is no way around your fear. Everything you want is on the other side of your fear. So you're going to have to go through it. No trapdoor, no hoist, no airlift, no, sorry.
But then you'll be there and you'll never have it blocking your way again.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, on a good day, with exceptions.
I don't know.
You ready for the speed round?
Oh, I didn't know there was a speed round.
This is a speed round where you don't have to think very much.
Yeah,
and then we'll wrap it up.
Good luck with that.
All right. You're a thinker. You just can't help it.
Well, I do help it. I work on it so that I don't think too much.
I mean, it's an advantage and a disadvantage.
That is correct.
It's a gift and a curse.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
First thing I do when I wake up is...
Coffee.
A weird habit I have is...
Daydreaming.
When I'm home alone and nobody else is around, I will...
Pray and meditate.
One thing I can't shake is...
My heartache.
I have a weird relationship with...
Myself.
Yourself.
Yes.
Can we go back to heartache for a second?
Sure.
Can you tell me about it?
I don't particularly, part of the reason I can't shake it is because I don't want to. When I'm talking about grief or regret and remorse and the like, what I don't want is to be ruled by them. But I don't need to. I no longer believe that they need to be excised or exorcised, pushed out, recovered from. I don't want to give up. It's a part of my
They're part of you.
Part of my humanity. It's my opinion that there are parts of my heart that are broken. It's a conviction. And it was either somewhere between Oscar Wilde and Tom Waits that it was written that, if I exercise my devils, well, my angels may leave too. I believe in this thing that Gilda Radner spoke about on her deathbed. She talked about life is not knowing, what to do next, and even what matters. And she sort of wrapped up her philosophy in talking about something called delicious ambiguity, not knowing what's going to happen next and being okay with that. So my heartbreak is part of what defines me.
When I'm walking around the streets of Manhattan, I think about
my father a lot. A lot.
If there's a movie made about my life, I would love to be played by...
Probably somebody like Andrew Garfield. The boy's got some serious humanity. My goodness.
Your last question is, who is Peter Scolari?
Who? See, my inclination is to answer what?
Be my guest.
Oh, I didn't mean to. That's like getting to reprogram the computer to test you on what you want to be tested on. I am your friend. Nothing else. I have no greater sort of pursuit in my life than to be a faithful and trustworthy and worth your time, to have your back. There's not a better accomplishment on the day. There might be this fantastic scene that I've acted on Broadway or acted in front of a camera the other day, and that's swell, but that's not the pinnacle for me. The pinnacle is, wow, not a putz, not a schmuck. And you know what he said to me? He said something that really helped me with, because he spoke about his own experience. That's what we do in our, I don't have too many original ideas. People who listen to this might think that there's a lot of original thinking going on here, but mostly it's my appropriation of incredibly valuable things that have been shared with me. You see the difference? Mm-hmm. It's important that
You've absorbed this.
Don't cut out that disclaimer.
Okay.
Not that you would.
So the disclaimer is important.
It is very important to me,
Okay.
because sometimes people confuse my, personal philosophy for this ingenious creation, this thing of my own making. I have appropriated and made use out of some fantastic things that have been said to me.
From other sources.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go out on the balcony and take a picture, or is that going to make you shiver?
No, I'll be fine.
Did we get to the essential you?
I'm afraid so.
Want to hear Peter talking even more about Bob Newhart or Tom Hanks? Head over to reallyfamouspodcast.com, where you'll find links to exclusive premium content. You can also see behind the scenes photos and info if you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kara1to1. If you happen to like Twin Peaks, I've got a podcast for you. It's called The Red Room Podcast. It's hosted by Scott Ryan. He also does a magazine about Twin Peaks called The Blue Rose. You can check him out by visiting scottryanproductions.com. Thanks for listening.